but I think we can start. Um, so thank you so much for joining me, Alison, for our first ever Restaurant Collective live session. And let me share my screen. There we go. And no, present. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Amazing. I can see my screen and us too, which is great. So welcome everyone to the first ever live session with Restaurant Collective. And today we've got Alison from Avocado Social to discuss standing out on social media as a hospitality operator. The social media is very saturated with a lot of content, and sometimes it's difficult to stand out. But Alison is here to share with us her knowledge. So welcome everyone. If you don't know yet what Restaurant Collective is, it's a place where we want to champion, support, and connect the independent hospitality sector. And we're doing this by creating economies of scale. So we've got incredible deals in our deals marketplace to help the independent hospitality sector. We've got a community forum where we discuss the latest issues that hospitality is facing, especially COVID, where we have also a regular weekly COVID update for hospitality, which I think is very important to know exactly what you can and can't do and not get caught out. We have advice from specialists in the sector, just like Alison. We're building also currently the largest independent restaurant directory, not only for our operators, but for potential customers, because often customers want to support an independent restaurant, but don't know which ones they are. So we're in the process of building that, which is very exciting. We also offer single page websites, which is a fancy word for just a website where you have all the power to control the information that you give out to your customers, and it's really easily updatable. And I'm going to release a video on how to use that very soon. And more stuff is coming. We're currently building a knowledge base and a skills training program and a mentorship program with peers, because nothing is better than getting advice from someone who's been through exactly the same thing recently and can offer you some advice. And I will post our website on how to join and how to kind of find out more information in the chat. And today we have Alison from Avocado Social. So if you'd like to introduce yourself to our lovely guest.
Thank you so much, Isabella. Hi, everyone. My name is Alison, and I'm the founder and CEO of Avocado Social. At Avocado Social, we offer training, consultancy, and strategies to all kinds of businesses, but we have a huge amount of experience in the hospitality sector. We've worked with brands like Bill's, Wagamama, and Soho House, as well as lots of hotels, cafes, and independent restaurants as well. So I'm really excited to share some of my social media knowledge with you today, and I welcome any questions you have as well. I know Isabella's got a few lined up for me. But I'm such a passionate fan of the hospitality sector. I follow a huge amount of restaurants, hotels, cafes, etc. on Instagram specifically. And so I'm going to share with you today a few tips that you can put into practice today.
So it's clear to see that you have a little bit of experience in the hospitality sector.
Yeah, so we've been really lucky because we have had such worked on such great projects with some of the UK's best loved brands. And actually, if I think right back to the beginning of my career, which was over 10 years ago now, one of the first brands I worked with was Tesco. So I've always had quite an interest in food and drink and how you can promote that across social media.
Well, that's incredible. And we're so honored to have you on the call today. We really appreciate you taking the time. Just before we start, a few housekeeping rules for Zoom, just to make sure all of you are on mute. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box and we'll check them at the end for any other questions you guys have. Cool. So, questions. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, standing out in the saturated market of social media is difficult, but are there any kind of easy steps that an operator can take to start seeing almost an immediate difference?
Absolutely, yes. I think the first thing that I would encourage everyone to do is to just have a little bit of an audit on your content. So go back to your Facebook page and your Instagram and your Twitter and whatever other social media platforms you have. Just take a look to see whether the images are accurately promoting your brilliant food and drink and the whole experience of your restaurants, because it's really the photography and videography that you post on your social media that's going to attract potential customers. So have a think, are those images high quality? Are they blurry, or have you cropped out some important information? Are you using good pictures of your staff, your food, your drinks, your interiors, more importantly at the moment, your exterior, your garden space? Because people really want to see the experience before they commit to coming and visiting you. I think, particularly at the moment, people want to be reassured that there is a great offering available for them, that it's COVID secure, and also that they are perhaps what kind of experience they're going to have. So, little things that I've noticed some restaurants sharing over the last few weeks are things like, what are the top menu items? So those popular menu items that people haven't had over the last year. So refocusing on those favorites that your customers love in your social media is a really good idea. Perhaps sharing some pictures of any new spaces you have. So maybe you've done a bit of renovation over the last year, perhaps just a fresh lick of paint, some new signage, or perhaps you want to show off how your tables are now arranged in a COVID secure way. Some pictures of that would work very nicely in social media. And also, I think everybody's very interested to hear more from the team behind your restaurant. Is there an update your founder or your head chef could share in social media, just to kind of welcome everybody back and get everyone excited about visiting you again? So definitely have a bit of an audit on your content and check that you are sharing the most up to date and the most attractive content you possibly can be in social media. And then another little practical tip I have for you is to really try and focus on sharing portrait sized images in social media. So there's actually been some recent studies that show pictures that you share in social media that are taken in a portrait mode. So when you take a photo, hold your phone vertically, never flip it, because portrait sized do better in social media feeds than horizontal images. And that is simply because they take up more space. So I know it sounds really straightforward, but they get more likes, comments, and shares than any other type of images. So you want to try and make sure that they are large and portrait sized.
That's incredible. So the portrait thing, I did not know. That's really interesting. So now all my pictures will be in portrait mode. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
And so basically, you're kind of saying that having a kind of transparent social media where you're building the narrative of who you are and kind of who your team is and what you have to offer is kind of the way to go.
Absolutely. Show, don't tell, I always say.
Okay.
You want to show people the experience. I think it's a bit of a shame, actually. I've been looking at some social media of some hospitality operators in the last week or so, and quite a lot of people haven't really bothered updating their cover images in social media. So on Facebook, this is the huge image that sits right at the top of your Facebook page. I say haven't bothered. I realize that you're very busy and have a million other things to do, but just giving your Facebook page a bit of a refresh, might be a fantastic way of inviting some people back to your restaurant, particularly the loyal customers who have been missing you for all of this time.
Yeah, that's a very good advice. And I think also the what you had mentioned earlier with what have you done during COVID, as in a lot of restaurants have taken the time to renovate. So what renovations have you done? And also what measures are there for COVID? I think a lot of people are a little bit timid at the moment in going out because they maybe were regulars before and they remember the restaurant being really crowded and lovely and lively and all of that, which was great then. But now it might cause a bit of stress for someone who hasn't been out for almost a year, just like me. But so showing the customer kind of your new interior, especially for opening up on 17th, which was confirmed yesterday by Boris Johnson, which is great. So showing your interior and what you've done is a good kind of narrative as well to tell on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a great post just yesterday, actually, by a pub called the Dog House in London. I love the name. I'm a doggy person, so it definitely caught my eye. And they had posted a wonderful picture of their outdoor space, which was full of people, but everybody was sitting down at socially distanced tables. So it looked incredibly safe as well as a fun place to be. And so I thought that that was such a good idea, just to show your busy pub or restaurant, but to reassure people that it is being done in a COVID secure manner, and everybody was having a good time. There was lots of smiles and people had blankets on as well. So I thought that kind of showed that the pub is prepared. They were sort of handing out blankets for people to use. So there's lots of little details that you can perhaps get across just in the power of photography.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but it genuinely is because nothing can describe a feeling as much as seeing imagery of it.
Yeah.
And I think social media is such a great place to give information to your customer that isn't kind of filtered by Google or filtered by any other things that might be out of date as well, because a lot of social media is instantaneous, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think keeping on top of it is quite important, and using that tool is incredibly powerful. Sorry, I got some posts, which is exciting. Oh, fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move. There we go. So, is paid social media worth it? And how much should we be spending to see a return in our investment? And what would you consider a return
Yeah.
in that investment?
Well, I think you said it yourself, Isabella. Social media is a saturated place. So there are hundreds of millions of other businesses using social media in the world, and everybody's competing for the same space in those busy news feeds. So paid social media will actually ensure that you are targeting your desired audience, because you pay Facebook or Instagram for the space in the news feed. So you're paying essentially for an ad to go out. And that ad will sit in the newsfeed of the audience which you have programmed into Facebook or Instagram. So if you want to only target people who live within a couple of miles of your restaurant, or you want to target people who are interested in perhaps other brands or particular cuisines or hobbies, then you absolutely can do. Maybe you know that your target audience generally is about 25 to 40 years old. You can just target those people in social media. So there's some really clever ways that you can use the platforms to your advantage and ensure that you're reaching more people than you would do if you were just posting to your Facebook page. Paid social media is really easy to set up. So if you run a Facebook page, you will have seen the little boost post button underneath every single post that you do. And on Instagram, it's called promote. So there's another button called promote. So it's essentially the same thing, but because they're different platforms, they like to have different words for it. So on Facebook, if you boost a post, you will then be asked what your objective is. So what really you want to do. So have a think about whether you're trying to get more people to see your post, whether you're trying to send traffic back to your website, or are you trying to get as many people to like, comment on, and share that post? So you actually have to decide one of three of those things before you set up the ad. So have a think about whether the post is trying to drive bookings or whether you are actually just letting people know that you're back open again. And if that's the case, then it's probably just awareness that you want. You want to hit as many people as possible.
So it's important to know as well who you're targeting. So you need to, is it worth kind of doing a trial run with different
Yeah.
audiences and
Yeah,
see?
absolutely. I think
Okay.
definitely that's a great suggestion. So the next stage, once you've picked your objective, is to select your audience. And it might be that you want to try different audiences or tweak them slightly as you trial different ads. So I think location for a restaurant is probably the most important metric when you're, well, not metric, but a selection choice to get right when you are promoting an ad. Because obviously, you only really want to target people who will genuinely visit your restaurant and make that journey. So use the knowledge that you have about your customer base over the last few years and what kind of lengths people are going to get to your restaurant. Will people travel across regions to get to you? Or are you much more a local restaurant where local residents come and enjoy your food and drink? So have a think about what strategy works best for you. And you can actually drop a pin on a map and just target people in a radius of your pin as well, which is a fantastic tool. So enter in the age, gender, location, and the interests of your target customer. And like I say, choosing something like world cuisines or perhaps various different interests that people who come and eat at your restaurant tend to have. And eating out is an interest as well. So you can just target people who are interested in eating out. And then the next stage is to select whether you want that ad to go on Facebook and Instagram, or you can actually just run that ad on Instagram as well. Now, that's a bit confusing because you can set up the ads separately on Instagram, but because Facebook owns Instagram and Facebook, they like to try and allow you to run ads across both if you so wish. And then once you've chosen that, it's simply a case of getting your ad to go live. Now, in terms of how much you should be paying, you will get a suggested reach, and reach means how many people Facebook thinks are going to see your ad. So Facebook will give to you a predicted number of how many people it thinks you'll be able to reach on your budget. And you'll notice if you tweak your budget by moving the amount up or down on a little slider, then you'll see the reach does increase and decrease as well. So Facebook usually suggests that you go in at a budget of around £10 for a boosted post. And this is an advert that will be live on Facebook for, on average, about 4 days. I say on average because you select how long you want that ad to go live for. And you can choose up to 7 days, but the best performing ads tend to be live for 4 days. And then it's really a case of how much you want to spend. So you'll notice that if you spend £10 a day, you might be able to reach a few thousand people. If you increase that to £20, you will be able to reach many, many more people. So I would suggest somewhere between £10 and £20. And obviously, this depends on whether your restaurant is based in a rural area, an urban area, how far and wide you're hoping to get your ad to go. And it's going to be different for everyone. But your suggestion of testing out different audiences is really, really good because you can only know how well it's going to go by just having a try. And £10 is not a huge investment to make in this kind of advertising at all. So try and get a reopening message live this week. And I'd suggest trying to get that live before Friday so that your ad can be live Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday into the new era of being able to host people indoors.
I know in fact, that's really exciting. And I think it would be hugely valuable for people to start kind of practicing their ads now and maybe run a couple, see which one works, and then, go with that one and put a little bit more investment behind that. And £10 a day, I mean, it's been difficult because of lockdown and everything, but I think with the power of Facebook and other social media platforms, I definitely don't think it's thrown away. It's creating awareness and kind of reminding people, look, I'm still here. We're still operating. And from the 17th, you can even pop indoors and look at what we've done with our indoor space and look at our outdoor space currently. So I think it's hugely valuable, and it's worth experimenting, as you said. And I think also kind of, as you said before, your customers already. So based on who your customers have been in the past, you can, I think, really create a good targeted audience, which will be hugely valuable and good value for money. And as you said as well, choose what you want the outcome to be. Is it bookings? Is it likes? Is it social media traffic? So no, exciting. Hopefully, people start using that as it's hugely valuable and an incredible tool.
And if you get one booking off that ad, it's paid for itself.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's worth thinking about it in that way when you're trying to decide how much to invest.
Yeah, that's a really, really valid point. Depending on how much a cover costs you or you get from a cover, will that cover my social media costs? So yes, absolutely. Cool. So what platforms should we be on? And is it worth being on every social media platform out there? Or do you think a more kind of concentrated and curated approach is more worth it?
That's a great question. I think because there's so much choice in social media platforms now, it can be quite confusing. Should you be on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube? I think the main thing to remember is Facebook is the number one used platform in the UK and globally. So Facebook does have the largest potential audience of any other platform. I would also suggest that other platforms can work very well for different things. So Twitter works well for customer service. A lot of people like to quickly tweet a business a question, or perhaps, I hate to say it, a complaint, or maybe they just want a really quick answer. What are your opening hours? Do you do takeaway? So Twitter can work very well, particularly if you're in a local community. You'll find that a lot of local experts do use Twitter. So perhaps the local MP, the local newspaper, the local radio station. So it can be a great PR opportunity as well if you run an active Twitter account. The other one to have a think about is obviously Instagram, which is rising in popularity. And Instagram works so well in the hospitality sector because so many people love consuming pictures of food and drink on Instagram. It's become such an important platform for sharing recipes, cook-alongs. It's also a great platform for booking directly. So if you want to order a delivery, there is a way of doing that within the app. If you want to drive people towards a booking form on your website, you can do that as well, quite well on Instagram. And then also there's LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is great for recruitment. So if you're looking to really build up your workforce, then a lot of people do head to LinkedIn to look for job opportunities as well. And there's many chefs and restaurateurs using LinkedIn. So there's a huge amount of choice, but the most important thing to remember is, where are my audience? And also, how much time have you got? Because there's no point having all of these platforms if you're only going to be able to update them maybe once a week or once a fortnight. So try and focus in on using one or two really well and keeping them as up to date as possible rather than spreading yourself too thinly. And that would be my major advice. I think if I were a restaurant, I would be focused on Facebook and Instagram. They, for me, seem like the ones that people are using more commonly to search for and book experiences such as going out for a meal or going to a bar for drinks.
That's really interesting, and I also really liked the point about Twitter. Twitter's whole kind of reason for existence is for fast information, and I think maybe if that's just even used to throw up your specials and then responding to customer queries, I think that's a hugely valid point. But also, the hospitality business is time consuming, as we all know, and being able to concentrate maybe on just the two or mainly Instagram, as it's very, very visual. I mean, I think everything I follow on Instagram is food, which makes me very hungry all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but so that's so Twitter almost becomes like a customer care area, and then Facebook maybe for bookings, and Instagram for kind of sharing your updates in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Sharing the experience. I think the food, the drink, the interiors. I think it's important to remember a lot of people do use Facebook as a way to quickly check some key information about a business. So things like your opening hours and your phone number or your website, it's really important to make sure they are available on your Facebook page. I think one of the things I'm noticing at the moment is a lot of businesses not taking the time to update their opening hours, even on platforms like TripAdvisor or Google My Business, which is the business information that now appears on Google Maps, which is really key. So you want to make sure that you've just done that sensor check that everything is up to date, because that could potentially lose your customer. So if you have that you're currently closed on your Google or your TripAdvisor because you have been closed and everything changes, do make sure you update your Google and TripAdvisor and Facebook, because that could lose you potential business.
Absolutely. I had this incident the other day where I had to go to a bakery, and I went on to Google Maps, and on Google Maps said this bakery will be closed by the time you get there. It's like, oh,
Mm.
that's really strange. They don't usually close at 5. So I went anyway because I have my trust issues with Google. And I went, and they were open, and they were open until 7 p.m. And I told them, have you seen that on Google? It says you close at 5. And in fact, they said, "Oh, so strange. In fact, we thought it was weird that we weren't getting customers much after 5 p.m."
There we
So,
go.
well, exactly. So it's sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming, all the places where you're registered. But as you said, it's hugely important to make sure you're updated everywhere, and that's something actually that Restaurant Collective will be offering in the independent directory. You'll have a single page website where you can update the information, and it will be updated on your directory as well. So you have the power to kind of change that. And this is happening to chains as well. So not even just independent hospitality who maybe don't have enough manpower or people power to make all these changes. It's happening to huge chains who, these things slip through the cracks, and you don't realize, okay, Google's changed my times, because they did a blanket change during lockdown. And as you said, there's TripAdvisor, but there's so many kind of sites that can take your information wrongly from one location and then reproduce that on their directory.
Mm.
And then that's your wrong time being replicated over multiple sites. So maybe
Yeah.
Google yourself and see where your times are showing and make sure that they are all with the correct times, and mainly your Facebook. which, as Alison has mentioned, it is a great source of information for your customers. So everything up to date, especially with the reopening happening. Yeah, just to make sure that everybody knows when and where to find you.
Absolutely. So important.
Um, let's see if there are any further questions. Not currently, which is good. Clearly, you've covered everything that there was to cover. Is there kind of any further advice you think that hospitality operators should do right now in this moment to prepare for opening on the 17th, aside from running an ad?
So the other one that I actually get asked about quite a lot is hashtags. So
Okay.
whether you should be using hashtags, how many, what kind of hashtags. So I definitely think on Instagram in particular, it's so important to get hashtags on your content, whether you put those in the caption or in your comments on your own posts. It doesn't matter where, they all still categorize your content. And it's important to make sure that you do hashtag your content with relevant words and phrases that people are actually searching for. So, some key ones at the moment that people are using are things like reopening. So, hashtag reopening, hashtag restaurant, UK restaurant, and also hashtag all of the local area hashtags that exist in where your restaurant is based. So, postcodes, borough names, district names, cities, towns. Get those hashtags in your posts because people are genuinely searching on Instagram to see which restaurants they should be eating in or what they should be doing in their local area right now. So that would be something really worth doing this week and making sure that you get that correct. If you're stuck for some hashtag inspiration, take a look at what others in your local community are doing. So, are there any other businesses you can have a look at? Maybe there's a local leisure centre, perhaps there's a local cinema, perhaps there's a local blogger or influencer, and you can have a look to see what hashtags they're using and maybe get some inspiration there too.
That's a hugely valid point. Thank you for that. And hashtags are very important, as you said, for categorizing your content. And just another point on hashtags, is it worth using hashtags that are very populated, or is it better to use hashtags that don't have many things allocated to it?
It sounds like a cop out answer, but the actual answer I would say is a mixture. So
Okay.
you want a few big ones. So if you're based in London, hashtag London, but bear in mind that so many other people are using that hashtag. So your content is going to show for like a split second before it gets moved down by newer content. So use a mixture. And
Okay.
there are a lot of hospitality focused hashtags. As I said, restaurant, UK restaurant, hospitality, UK hospitality. And so think about some of your USPs, your unique selling points, and whether you can hashtag those words as well. I think as well, like outdoor dining and outdoor dining area are quite popular at the moment as hospitality businesses are really pushing their beer gardens and their outdoor spaces.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And we have a question from Paul. So they say, I use LinkedIn a lot. Is it any good for advertising to consumers?
So LinkedIn is a great platform for targeting any professional. So if you're looking to target a specific job role, industry, or a specific level of expertise that somebody has, that's the best way of utilizing LinkedIn. And it is more expensive than other platforms because you're generally targeting people who have a budget to spend on quite high value items like conference tickets or software solutions. So do be aware that you're going to spend more on LinkedIn than platforms like Instagram or Facebook. But it can be a brilliant tool. So have a think about whether your clientele for your restaurant are using LinkedIn and whether your LinkedIn audience would respond well to an advert about your restaurant. I wouldn't say it was perhaps the most obvious place to run adverts targeting restaurant consumers. However, I have worked on some projects before with restaurants who are based in kind of business districts of cities. So are looking to advertise their working lunch or their meeting room offerings. So you can use it a little bit outside the box.
And
But
that
like I
makes
said,
sense.
expect to pay a bit more.
That makes sense because obviously, if you're in the city, for example, and your consumer base is city workers, then what better place than LinkedIn? So I guess it depends on what your outcome is.
Exactly.
And
What you're offering.
another, oh sorry, another question was, any better times of day or days of the week to post?
I think the answer there is you have to just think around common sense. You know, when would someone genuinely be jumping onto Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn to consume that content? Lunch times and evenings do tend to become hotter times to post on Facebook and Instagram. And on LinkedIn, it's any time in the working day. So between 9 and 5 are hotter times to post than, let's say, a Sunday at 1 o'clock. So you will learn a bit more about your audience as you get to know them. And on Instagram, it actually tells you in the insights when your audience is on Instagram. So you can spot if there's any key times that people are logging in. But like I said, just try those obvious breaks in the day when people might have a quick scroll on their phone.
Oh, fantastic. And that absolutely makes sense to post when you would be wanting to go into social media. And I think it's incredible that Instagram kind of shows your audience insights by telling you as well when they're online. That's really great. I actually didn't know that one. So thank you very much for explaining that.
Not a
Uh,
problem.
I don't think we have any more questions. But I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time and giving us these really incredibly useful tips. And I know I'm going to be using them for my social media. And I think it's important to take back control of the information that you're popping out there. And social media is a great tool to do that. And yeah, thank you so much.
It's an absolute
And
pleasure. It's been great to chat social media with you.
oh, thank you. And I will be popping into the chat our our website to find out more about Restaurant Collective. And we are brand new. We're expanding every day, and we really just want to help the independent hospitality community because, I mean, everybody's taken a hit from COVID, but none more really than the independent hospitality sector. So please join us and find out how we can help more. Our deals are really incredible at this point. They're paying for the membership, which is kind of cool. And a lot more is to come with our knowledge base, skills training, and mentorship. So I look forward to seeing you in the community hub, as that's what I'm running at the moment. And reach out to us on social media as well, and look out for our next live sessions. We'll have live sessions every Tuesday, and each time we'll be kind of discussing a different topic. So keep an eye open and see what's coming next. Thank you so much again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you all at the next talk. Ciao. Thank you. Bye.